you had to carry all your food with you, short of what you actually were going to then be able to get on a hunt.
Hmm.
And so you started doing the math and realizing, okay, I'm not going to be able to carry enough calories
Yeah.
for the whole trip. And that meant at some point along the way, and I don't think it was that far into the trip, you started experiencing hunger. And it's not the hunger of, gee, I wish I had some Doritos. It was like
Yeah.
real innate hunger. Could you talk about
Yeah.
being hungry and why that is important?
Sure. So when you run the numbers, we're carrying these heavy 80, 90 pound packs all over the place. The landscape is, hilly and treacherous, and we're probably burning, I don't know, somewhere between 4,000 and 6,000 calories a day. But if we were to bring enough food to fuel that, I mean, our packs it wouldn't all fit in the pack. All we would have is just a bunch of food. So we had to pare down and figure out, okay, how much is enough reasonably, to stay alive, more or less. And we figured it would be about 2,000 calories. So that's what we packed. So every day we're digging ourselves into this hole, and there's just never enough food. And what happens over time is fascinating, is you start to feel hungry and your mind starts to really focus on food. And these are these evolutionary mechanisms that we've developed to force us to find food, right? That really compels you to find food. But feeling that hunger was fascinating because my average day, I eat for reasons that often have nothing to do with hunger. It could be that, I woke up and it's breakfast. I got to eat breakfast. So essentially the clock is telling me that I should eat, right? Or maybe I get stressed and I'm like, oh man, I hate that email I just received. Hand goes into the M&Ms and I shove them into my face. A lot of the data shows that as much as 80% of the times we eat aren't driven by actual physiological hunger. It's just because, like I said, it's a clock or stress or whatever. So re-engaging with actual core deep hunger was fascinating. Because I'm like, man, I haven't ever felt this before. And I learned a lot of interesting things about hunger. And one of them too is that, over time, it's not going to kill you. Out there, it's like I lost 10 pounds over the 33 months or whatever it was. But I realized re-engaging with hunger is actually a good thing, because if you can figure out when this is true hunger versus this is just me wanting food, that can really move the dial. Because I mean, right now I think in the US, it's 72% of Americans are overweight or obese. I mean, we're clearly suffering from a crisis where we're just eating too much. And that suggests to me that probably, re-engaging with hunger and learning about when do I actually need food versus when do I want food can be really important in moving the dial on our health through weight loss. So I would say that when I came back from the Arctic, I realized that a lot of times, like I said, I just want food, or it's a clock that tells me I want food. And feeling that hunger can lead to a lot of internal physical change. So I think, embracing hunger is important. And, I know people get really, I guess I would say ideological. I don't know if that's the right word, about certain diets and all that. My own opinion is that if you look at all the research, weight loss is primarily driven by calorie balance. And so just figuring out a way that you can eat that will control your hunger, but you're not eating too much is important. And so in the book, I talk about ways of certain foods that research suggests tend to help us fight hunger, but also control our calories. So these tend to be foods that we've often heard are not good for us, like potatoes or different forms of carbs that are unprocessed, that actually are good because they can help us control hunger and keep our calories low. It's this concept called calorie density, which is kind of a sciencey way of saying they fill you up without having as many calories as other foods.
Yeah. And I think one of the things that kind of came out of it is as soon as you killed the caribou, you ate like a king, and it was one of the best meals you'd had in a long time. And you even started liking the instant meals, just the reconstituted meals. You're like, it's fine. I love it.
Yeah.
It's still delicious because
Mm-hmm.
I'm that hungry that you were truly tasting your food.